my Ohio State Buckeyes at Iowa. Marco, what should bettors be looking at?
Well, this is a huge game for the Big Ten, but I'll tell you, people are going to make comparisons with Iowa after what they did to Michigan State earlier at home. They drilled them. They were a number 5 team in the country. They're also going to look to Ohio State and say they lost at Wisconsin earlier in the year in a similar situation. Ohio State wins this game, and I'll tell you why it's different this week than when they played.
Why is it different?
Well, first of all, that game was a night game at Madison. It is a total different atmosphere when you play a night game at a school that generally does not play night games. Wisconsin doesn't play a lot of night games, but when they do, they've played phenomenal. You're not going to have that kind of frenzied crowd. It will be a frenzied crowd, but it's a different level when you play at night. Also, defense. Ohio State has the better defense in this game. Both teams can run the ball, but the key to this game is which quarterback is going to be able to make the plays passing, and I like Terrell Pryor better than Stanzi in this game.
All right, Iowa's 20 in the BCS right now. You're saying they're overrated, so they're not in the top 25 in your mind?
Their stock has fallen the last 2 weeks because they've played 2 back-to-back bad games. The first game I can understand. When they came off the Michigan State game, they were ripe for a letdown. I understand that. Last week against Northwestern, no. That was inexcusable to have a second flat spot.
Okay, so now often, and this is what makes, it's like poker. It's sometimes you raise with the best hand, sometimes you check with the best hand. It's never as easy as checkers or, 1, 2, 3. I would say this. I've heard Marco D'Angelo many times say, Iowa's got a good coach. It's a good program. They're ultra motivated here after the big disappointment in Northwestern. This is their chance at redemption on national TV against, they can kill Ohio State's chances to make the Rose Bowl. I could imagine you saying all that. What's different? And again, you understand when that's applicable and when it's not. The fact that you're a long-term winner tells me that, but I don't get it. What's the difference?
The difference is last week's poor performance, I look at the game and see why. And why Northwestern threw the ball on them. They were able to move the ball through the air. Now, I know when you look at Ohio State, you don't think of Ohio State as a passing team. I mean, Jim Tressel's been, almost like the old days, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But he's got a different type of quarterback this year. Terrell Pryor, he's maturing, I think, every week. And I just think that he is the difference in this game, and he's an X factor. He can beat you.
So it's Ohio State's ability to throw, and Iowa's been exposed as a team that you can throw on.
And when it comes to his legs, he can beat you with his feet as well.
Yeah, but you can say that. You could have recorded that. Pryor can beat you with his arm and his legs 3 years ago, and we could have saved. We didn't have to set up the studio this week. What is specific?
3 years ago, he didn't have the maturity that he has now.
Okay, so you're saying that he is now able to pass, and that's something that's just happened this year?
It started at the end of last year. I saw the maturity in him last year.
So if we were playing this game early last year, you wouldn't be as quick to look at Ohio State because Iowa's weakness, which you're considering pass defense, wouldn't be exploitable by Ohio State where it is now.
Yes.
All right, that makes sense. So really, though, back to my question of why aren't you talking about Iowa being motivated to turn it around, is I'm hearing you say that last week's poor performance uncovered a fundamental flaw that you think it wasn't just being flat from a lack of effort or whatever, is in a way they've been exposed.
Yes.
Iowa, as a team that can be thrown on. All right, let me throw a few things at you. Both of these teams are underrated according to Vegas. Vegas has Ohio State as the 4th best team in the country. BCS says 9th. Iowa actually is 15th in the Vegas poll, 20th in the AP. So you're disagreeing with Vegas in regards to Iowa being over or underrated. Now, I actually think Iowa, I lean a high, I'm in between, so I'm going to kind of defer to you on this. Let me give you some, it's going to take about 60 seconds, so relax. Ohio State, I've said this a few times, but their loss to Florida, those championship game losses to Florida and LSU have completely, and then the USC losses in the regular season have completely skewed people's perception of Ohio State. Check out these stats. They're going to blow you away. They're 22-7 ATS on the road. So this team just travels well. And that's something we talk about a lot. The very best programs travel so much better in college because they're almost like a pro team. They're 42-17 as a favorite. One of the things that we talk about a lot is, oh, Tressel's conservative. BS. This guy, he might play conservative play calling. 42-17 is a favorite.
That's home and away?
Home and away. They're 47-20 overall. So in the last 67 games, they've covered more than almost 70 or maybe 70% of the time. Just in general, you would think one of the most marquee schools in the country would have at best a 50% ATS record. They've overperformed massively in the last 6 years. They've won 7 of 8 in November ATS. Remember, these are all ATS, 7 of 8. Now here's the one straight up record. Tressel, since he's come here, is 27-4 in November straight up. So they finished the year strong. They're playing well on the road. They play well against good teams, except for a few marquee exceptions that everyone seems to remember. And lastly, Tressel, and this, well, there's 2 more stats, so relax. 12-3 against winning teams. So again, it's not just beating up on OU or beating up on Bowling Green. And here's the one that blows my mind. Tressel has played 9 times against a Big Ten team that was in a BCS Bowl the year before. So a team that, in a way, is threatening Ohio State's dominance of the Big Ten. Tressel's 9-0 straight up, 8-1 ATS. And Iowa fits that spot. So I love Ohio State here, and I think they're a play on in general, which is rare to me against such a marquee team.
Well, I have Ohio State winning 31-20, a little bit of a higher scoring game than you might think when you think about Ohio State and Iowa. But again, that goes to what I think they're going to move the ball through the air in this game.
Would you have guessed those stats? I mean, those stats are pretty surprising, huh?
When you talk about Tressel, no, yeah, his nature, the way we kind of, and we both did it at the beginning of the year. You stereotype him as a guy that just puts his team in a position to win, but doesn't have that extension of the score.
I mean, just the idea of saying you're going to take one of the most marquee teams in the country, play them blindly for 6 years, and the idea that you're going to be over about 70% is shocking to me.
Will you have one of your Ohio State hoodies on when you're watching the game?
It's funny. As much as I root for them, I watch every Steeler game, but the Ohio State games I'm playing cards, and I'll watch it up on the screen. Now it's your turn to continue the conversation in the comment section with Marco and me. And next up, we're moving to Virginia Tech at Miami of Florida on ABC.